Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Welcome to Health Oddity, episode 155. This week it's just me and Peter. James is on one of his many holidays. And it's particularly one of his holidays this time of the year, I think, when he goes completely black. What do we call it in the military when you...
He's gone dark.
He's gone dark.
Off the grid.
Yeah, he's off the grid. He's, I don't know, where's he gone? He's probably gone somewhere nice and sunny. He always does.
He's in Greece somewhere, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's particularly sunny at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I think he's in one of the places that's not having trouble, I think.
Yeah, so it's us. We're going to, like, the two grumpy men having a chat.
Where's that cloud?
Yeah, occasionally moaning. Sometimes a smile will cross our face. And if and here's a game, every time we smile on the Zoom call, you can drink a shot. Otherwise, or you can get a little bit more drunk if every time we moan, you drink a shot. James keeps it positive, doesn't he?
That reminds me, there's a Frasier episode. I love Frasier. There's a Frasier episode where him and Niles want to watch their program, and Martin's like, no, I want to watch my game show. So, they're always clashing about what to watch on telly. And it turns out the game show is the Antiques Roadshow, which is exactly what Martin and what Frasier and Niles want to watch. So then later on, it's turned into a drinking game. So Martin has to drink some beer, and they have to drink some wine every time someone says veneer. They're like, veneer. They're another bottle of wine. Brilliant.
I mean, it is a bit like the like the pop idol of kind of in the intellectual world, because there's always that pause before they give the final verdict on the price. Just like there's always the pause in Pop Idol where before they announce the winner, there's always a dramatic pause, and you always say, "Oh, is it going to be $5,000 for that brooch?" Or
we Well, what was I going to say? It's it's funny because you watch people doing it. They basically take stuff on, don't they? And they're like telling them all about it. They go, "This is 19th century," and they're like, "Yeah, just tell us how much it is, so I know how much I can say."
Yeah, and they had to pawn the families.
Talking about shopping stuff on price. It's like, just tell us how much it is, so I can go out and buy this thing that I want.
Well, there is the occasional disappointment when they've kind of waxed lyrically about how beautiful this object is and how it's one of a kind. It turns out to be about 20 quid because no one actually wants it. But it's a great example of that thing. The disappointment.
There was one on the other week or a while ago. Can't remember. We don't usually watch it, but it was just on, and there was some people who had a Victoria Cross medal.
Oh, wow.
No, right, George Cross. That's like World War. Was it World War II? King George. So I thought, what was it? Well, anyway, it was a Victoria Cross. So well before that, and it was worth like 350 grand or something. It was something ridiculous. It was like, I think it was the most anything had ever been. No, was it more than that? Anyway, it was a lot of money. It was huge.
It was a lot of money, yeah.
You can see the people going, right, we'll be sticking that straight back in the safety deposit box in NatWest.
Well, as long as NatWest doesn't give away the location, given their discretion at the moment.
Probably moved now.
Yeah, I think it's a few weeks on now, so it's very topical at the moment as we talk.
Yeah.
Well, those in the UK will know what we're talking about. So yes, it's because it's me and Peter. We're both going to update you on how we're doing. I'm fine, by the way. Just kind of delve into some things that are on top of our mind at the moment, things that are kind of perhaps we wouldn't discuss when we have a guest, and we can kind of to and fro from that. Peter, you've been well. I mean, you've been telling me about some purchases.
Tell me about me goods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is actually, to be fair, before you carry on, is something that I get at times excruciating amount of detail from clients about what they're experiencing, how it was before they worked with me, how it currently is, and what they're likely to expect for the rest of the week. So I'm pretty well versed in this, so I'm not too squeamish.
No, without getting into too much detail, I've had good problems my whole life. I remember. So I'm working with someone on it now, but I remember when I was a kid, I had this stuff which was like flakes. Not on my body. I mean, as in it was prescribed to me.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're like fiber flakes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like fiber
All the
flakes.
leprosy.
You stirred them in water. I can't remember what they were called.
Yeah. It's called fiber brand, fiber, something like that. I used to have it, to be fair, because I had a stomach problem before I became like in my late 20s. But I'll let you
and it didn't taste very nice. And you'd stir it around and it didn't dissolve. And then you'd have to drink.
right.
It was like, I mean, kids have these bubble tea now. It was probably a bit like that, wasn't it? But yeah, I remember
What
it
is
being
bubble
horrible.
tea?
But sorry?
What is bubble tea?
It's tea with little jelly things in it, as far as I know. I don't know.
I mean, we were talking about Tarum salata before we got on. That's all they're thinking about, fish eggs.
Oh, no. Yeah, it's tea with caviar in. The kids love it.
Yeah.
No, I used
middle
to,
class.
I used to have that as a kid. And then, but I've always had, I haven't got like digestion problems and stuff like that, but I've just got gut problems, like as in there's certain things that I can't eat because they just make me bloat up. And it's not gluten and stuff like that. It's actually like beans and pulses, things like that are really high fiber. Like I can't process them.
I find them difficult as well. They can be sometimes they just make you want to go to the loo.
Mine just bloat me up and then make me explode. I've said before, I used to have bran flakes. I know like cereal, it's not necessarily that great for you and all that. Yeah. But I used to have bran flakes when I was at work. And every day I'd have them for breakfast. And then at 11 o'clock, I'd feel like I was going to pass out.
They're healthy then, you know?
Yeah. Chris Hoy swears by them, doesn't he? Yeah. Sir Chris Hoy, sorry. But I'd feel like I was going to pass out, like totally lightheaded. And then 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd explode every day. And then I pinpointed, this was before I knew anything about what I know now. And I pinpointed that and stopped eating them and it went away. So
the thing is, you actually did something about it. But a lot of people go back to the things. I mean, that's the one thing Phil Maffetone was surprised about. And I'm kind of not really, having been through it myself, but, you know, Phil's obviously managed to maintain a certain level of focus in his diet for most of his life, is that you do something like the 2-week test, or you do one, you know, a program, elimination program, you find out what's the cause, or what irritates, or what you need to exclude. And then you don't, you know it, but the draw of the food is so powerful that you go back to eating it. And you've managed to stay away from it.
Fortunately, if it had been cheesecake, that'd have been a different story. But bran flakes aren't, like, they're not very exciting, are they?
They aren't. No. I mean, I used to be really into Golden Grahams. I mean, that was my thing.
Blimey.
I used to eat a pack of Golden Grahams a day, like on a box.
No wonder you had gut issues, mate.
I got pretty fat, I have to say. But you see, I don't know what it was. I mean, I was just,
yeah.
I think it's the first time I left home, you know, and no one told me to stop.
You're gonna grow up now. It's like, what? Yeah. No, it's funny though, because we were talking, because I've learned this as well over the last month or so, is that we were talking about this just before we started, you inherit your mum's microbiome, which I didn't know. And I don't know loads about this, but my mum, a few years back, was struggling, and she's had like, you know, gut issues her whole life as well. And which makes sense, because that's why I've had them my whole life, because that's where I got it from. And also she had a very stressful childhood and what have you, but you know, that affects your gut, doesn't it? Like stress and all that sort of stuff. So, but she was struggling a few years back with having to go to the loo in the afternoon and then passing out. Basically, she would actually pass out. And she was having bran flakes for breakfast, so I told her to stop. And not everything went away, but that specific symptom went away. And I was like, there you go. And then I never really put 2 and 2 together until a couple of weeks ago, when I learned that you inherit your mum's microbiome, and I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. We're both.
I mean, I question whether or not we need that much fiber.
I don't know. I'm not going to go there because I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I mean, in the past, as we evolved, the sheer volume of fiber that people talk about consuming, we just wouldn't have had access to it. I mean, not without, you know, spending 2 hours of our day breaking through a route with our
Yeah.
teeth. You know, it would have been very difficult to get that volume and amount of fiber in a bran flakes or bran, whatever they're called, you know, the little
Yeah.
bran flakes, and then there's the little sticky ones, isn't there? All bran. No, is
Oh,
that
yeah.
all bran?
I used to eat
Yeah.
that when I was a kid as well, actually.
Yeah. And there's a lot of sugar in those things, actually.
Yeah. But it's I don't know that about, I don't know. I mean, you could read anywhere that you need loads, and you could read, like, James is on a carnivore diet. I don't know what his fiber intake's like, but on a carnivore diet, it's not going to be huge, is it? I wouldn't imagine. So
Well, I've done carnivore diet, and I did it for a month. Then I reintroduced fruit and a little bit of oats, and yeah, I'd never been so regular in a good way in my life. You know, I'd felt, you know, like there was never any, not fear, but there was never any trepidation from, you know, you're not farting as much.
yeah,
You're going much easier. You only
yeah,
have to go once a day. It's not an issue.
yeah.
I noticed
No,
that anyway.
it's because I find this stuff interesting because it's different for everybody, because everyone's the reason why I'm looking into it now is to sort my own gut issues out, to get a bit more, not necessarily knowledgeable about it, but just to know where to go to someone who is knowledgeable and can help. And and also I don't want to have, apart from foods that I'm actually allergic to, which there's not really a lot you can do about,
Yeah.
to my knowledge.
Yeah.
But to my limited knowledge on that, but if you're allergic to someone, you know, to some food, I think that's more difficult to sort out.
Yeah.
But if you're just intolerant to something because it gives you these symptoms of gassiness or whatever, I think there is a way to sort that out by sorting your gut out. And I think so. So my coach on this is called Caitlin Kerfman, and she's in the States, but I know her from a business mastermind type thing. I mean, and that's what she does. So I asked her about it, and she was like, "Well, let's try and sort it out." And I was like, "Okay." So, and I asked her about that specifically because she did a GI map for me, and I asked her about that specifically, and she's basically like, "Yeah, if we can, you know, get the problem that you're having, which I'll talk about in a minute if you want, but if you get the problem that you're having and try and sort that out, all of that other stuff should go away." So, that's what I'm hoping for, because at the minute I have to be. It's not having to be careful what I eat, but we were just talking about as well. My diet is very boring, but I don't mind that. I have the same things over and over again. But
I have very similar tastes every week. I'm always buying the same things.
Yeah.
And at the weekend, like on a Saturday, I make cakes with the kids, and we if we go out for a meal, I don't put any kind of things on it. But I just know that I have a way of doing things that I know works, and that I can occasionally deviate from, and that's good. But if I start, like anyone, if I start just kind of adding something here, like, oh, I'm going to have a muesli bar, and then I'm going to, oh, some crisps over, I'll just have I know before I know it, there's little things that just add in that just, I start bloating up, my skin goes bad.
Yeah.
I start feeling low energy. Whereas at the moment, it's very simple: meat, fish, good quality dairy, good quality fats, loads of fruit, and some oats. And that's basically it.
The thing is, though, when I always find this funny when I've spoken to people and they're like, "Oh, it's boring though. I don't want to change. Like, you know, I want to be able to eat whatever I want, regardless of how it makes me feel." And then when you actually look at what most people eat, they've got 6 or 7 meals that they make.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I get people taking photographs every day into our coaching system, and it is pretty much the same. I don't know what it is about granola, but it's like the thing that everyone has. I mean, it's always granola. I mean, like, you try and get people to give up granola, it's probably easy to give up cigarettes and granola for a lot of clients. I don't know what it is about granola. I think it's because it tastes like a biscuit, doesn't it? But that's always breakfast. Breakfast is always granola.
Yeah, but that was one of the things Karen asked me. She was like, you know, there was a massive questionnaire for it, and what was interesting was going through this questionnaire was like it was like 80 or 90 questions or something like that, all very simple, like, you know, about symptoms. Do you experience this?
Yeah.
Never, monthly, weekly, daily sort of thing. And all of the symptoms it was asking about, if you'd have asked me 15 years ago, there would have been loads of them, like dizziness and headaches and achy joints and all of this sort of stuff. And I was just going through like, no. I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. But there's nothing wrong with me, but there's clearly something that can be sorted out. But I was like, I wasn't having all these symptoms. So that
Well, there's okay, and then there's optimal. And it sounds like, you don't want to be okay strength. I mean, okay strength would probably be able to press the 24 kilo kettlebell once or twice. You'd be able to do some squats, you'd be able to do a good workout, get your heart rate up and be of a good BMI. And that's probably normal, but you're not looking for that, are you?
No.
You're looking for optimal within, the amount of effort you want to put in.
Yeah. But also it's one of those things, you can do the right things, but if you're doing them on top of something that's not right anyway, it's, I needed to find out what was going on within, because I'm putting all the right things in, but the right things aren't going on. So I needed to figure out what was going on inside. And if I can sort that out, I mean, I've only just started, but hopefully in the next 3 months or so, it'll be, that's 40 odd years worth of, because it plays on your mind.
Yeah.
Not all day, every day, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I just want it not to be there. So yeah. I'm delving deep here because we get asked about it a lot, and you can give people good advice. We're not dietitians or anything like that, but you see people eating packaged foods and all this. It's like, well, just eat, like you've said, eat whole foods, and you take meat, fish, vegetables, fruit, nuts, yogurt, beans, lentils, all those sorts of things. There's a million meals out there. There's so many different combinations. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you can eat less or more of whichever one. I eat less beans and kind of like a lot of veg because they just make me fart, quite frankly. And I eat more of the good quality meats, fish, and dairy and eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. I drink a lot of water.
Yep.
It works. And I'll eat a lot of fruit. But I mean, I'm similar to you. I mean, I had stomach issues, and that's what got me into fitness. Really, is the collapsing at the age of 28 and ending up in the hospital because of my stomach issues and being on omeprazole, and I discovered filmafetone, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of got rid of it. I did these 2-week tests, and I got amazing results from that, and I've never had any stomach problems since. But when you have them, they are very debilitating because they're kind of really deep inside you, and it's the fuel you put in your body, and it kind of permeates outside, and it doesn't matter what actions you take in terms of exercise. If you're feeling rotten because your guts are just not right, then it doesn't matter if you've got the perfect workout in front of you. It's just not going to, it's going to be a trash workout, and your recovery is
it's the brain gut connection, isn't it? Like if it's playing on your mind all the time as well, and you to feel like that's hormonally, you're just going to change.
Well, there's a good book actually called The Autoimmune Solution by Dr. Amy Myers. It's more geared to people with autoimmune disease, but it's a very good diet system for people who are looking to try and eliminate some issues that they may be having that could be caused by food, or to at least supplement a medical regime that they're having. So if they're in if they're on medications that help control something, but they want to have an optimal approach to their health and find out a little bit about the food that they're eating, then she provides a system called the Myers solution, or the protocol, or something like that. Anyway, it's called Dr. Amy Myers. That's the book definitely worth reading if you're looking for a very well thought out elimination diet.
That'd be good, because it scares me about because I mean, with what I'm doing, if I wasn't doing this, you look at it and it's like there's an autoimmune risk, even if you're doing all the right things. So it's like it scares me how many people don't know about this, and they're just walking into a world of autoimmune.
I'm going to read you this actually, which I sent out to my mailing list, but I also sent out to my group. I noticed it when I went on the BBC website. So if it comes up, of course, my email's not loading now. I want to do it, but basically,
so your internet's a bit dodgy. So if you do something on your phone as well, that's it, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to turn it off. Yeah, I've turned it off the internet, so hopefully everything can multitask. But so basically, it's the number of people living with major illnesses in England will rise 9 times faster than the healthy working age population, projections show. So there's a image at the bottom that I posted. It's basically in 2010, in the age bracket 20 to 69-year-olds, there was 2.4 million living with a major illness in England. And people 70 years and older was 2.9. Projected by 2040, the 20 to 69-year-old category is going to go to 3.5 million, and the 70 plus is going to go to 5.6. So 5.6 from 2.9. So I mean, the chronic illnesses it's just an epidemic, and it's all well and good being able to live longer, but if you live longer in absolute ill health, you will. I mean, we all know someone who's been through very severe ill health throughout their entire kind of retirement and things like that, and it's not a good place to be, particularly if you've worked all your life, to take time out to enjoy the rest of your life.
It scares me enough to the point that I'm like, I'm not. I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to not let it happen, because I'm going to do my best to make sure it doesn't happen. But,
no, exactly. But there's a quote, actually, one of my clients, he recommended, because when I put the thread up, he recommended a book by Peter Attia.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Outlive. And one of the quotes in that book was, exercise might be the most potent drug we have for extending the quality and perhaps quantity of our years of life. And there he says, nearly all the money flows on treatment rather than prevention. And when I say prevention, I mean prevention of human suffering. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So I thought that was certainly a book worthy. It's called Outlive. Another book recommendation.
But I mean, talking about that, you look at, I mean, I don't know about the NHS budget, but there was something years ago that 10% of it was spent on managing type 2 diabetes. Just managing it, not researching it and not trying to prevent it, just managing it in people. And that was a long time ago. I wouldn't know what that would be now, but it's like he's just said there, it's going on the treatment of stuff rather than either going on like how to prevent it, but how to prevent it is how to get people not to do the things that I get to that point anyway. You know, it's really tricky, because you've got people talking about it on here to a certain number of people, and we haven't got millions of pounds to stick behind this and get it in front of as many people as possible and try and spread the message. And then you've got advertisers of big fast food chains and confectionery companies and this and that and what have you that can just plow that in front of people, and that's what people want. It's more compelling, isn't it?
Well, it's easier. It's easier to get a Band-Aid than to do the work. I mean, we know from our clients. I mean, I just put a couple of people through the Amazing 12 we had a couple of graduates. We had another graduate, but she didn't want to do a photo shoot. But so we had two people we did photo shoots for. It's a lot of work, I mean, that's the reality. It's difficult. I mean, they always say in personal training, don't sell the journey, don't sell the ticket, sell the vacation, or something. Don't sell the tube journey to the airport and then the walk to the ticket desk and then waiting in line to go through the luggage. You sell Bali, the Bahamas, the result. But I think if you don't discuss it right from the outset, the fact that actually, hey, you want this, do you? Okay. Oh, it's going to be quite hard, actually. Are you sure you're prepared for that? Oh, yeah, I am. Yeah. No, but are you really ready? Do you think you could do it? Why are you going to, you might fail. Why might you fail? Oh, I'm not going to fail. I'm this. Well, what are you going to bring to the table? I think it's important to discuss it, because then I think if they do sign up to take part in a challenge or something like that, they'll at least know that it was something they did with their own volition, and then it won't be quite a surprise that actually they have to be the active participant in it. Because otherwise you just say, hey, do you want a six-pack? Oh, look at that six-pack. That six-pack looks good, doesn't it? Do you want that? Yeah. They're going to say, yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the past, haven't we? And it's enjoy the process rather than the result. Because I was looking at this the other day about what control what you can and forget the rest and all that. There's memes about this all over the place. And everyone knows about all this stuff of control what you can and disregard the rest. Only look after yourself first and blah, 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 all of these things. But everyone knows the memes, but they don't necessarily apply it to life. They just look at it and go, "Oh, that makes me feel good," and then move on and do exactly the same things that they've always done.
Yeah.
Whereas so I was looking at this the other day. What you can control is what you do today, is the process. You can control the process because you've got to do that. The outcome that you want, you can't control. It may or may not happen, or you may or may go in a different direction. However, you're going to move closer to it every day if you follow the process.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And you get, and so we've heard this from, from Olympic athletes, from boxers, from everybody who these, football players, rugby players, the whole, there's examples across the whole of sport of people who achieve their goals, that they set themselves out when they were kids and they saw someone on telly doing something or whatever, and they were like, right, that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna become the best ever. We had Becca Robertson the other week. She's going to be the strongest woman who ever lived, which is brilliant because that's like that's a long journey, isn't it? And she just said
it's a big goal.
Yeah, she just said, yeah, but you just got to turn up every day, and it keeps her going. But the problem is that I see is that in that, especially in sport, you've got to achieve this before a certain age because otherwise it becomes not unachievable but harder and what have you. So that's where you get to the point when you've done that, you're then like massive dopamine hit from whatever it is that you've achieved. But then what happens afterwards, and that's why you hear about all like depression and just a massive fall off a cliff, and because people are still quite young, and they're like, well, what happens now? I've done everything.
We used to have that with musicians.
Yeah.
We used to have that when they do a gig. They show up, they play in front of 2,000 people. Everyone's chanting their names, singing the songs. They're meeting people, and then they finish it, and then they're properly buzzing. Like everyone loves them. And then what's available? All the things that keep you buzzing, which is alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, whatever. And you can get into all kinds of states because you want to feed that buzz. And then the next day you wake up, you do it again, and they get off tour or whatever, or they stop being a musician. They don't know quite what to do. It's very addictive to have those levels of heights. But also it's the vacuum after achieving a goal is a bit like, oh, now what? I thought this was going to be different. I thought I would be a different person if I achieved this goal. And you might end up being a different person, but you might end up just feeling exactly the same. It's a bit like when people say, I'm going to lose 20 kilos, and then they lose 20 kilos and it doesn't really address the underlying kind of confidence issues or things like that,
Exactly. Yeah. So if you can enjoy the process towards that and it's like a massive dopamine hit at the end, or small amounts of dopamine every day. And if you can enjoy that, so rather than having ups and downs of hitting the goal and then falling off a cliff, and then maybe he's doing it again next year or the year after, like losing weight or whatever it is, it's like, well, just do a little bit towards it every single day and get a little bit of dopamine out of it, and then you flatten that curve, don't you, of high low, and everything just
that's why I do kettlebell sport. I do kettlebell sports so I can have just utter deep dark abyss constantly of just self-loathing. So I never get the high. All I feel is a crushing sense of defeat. Yeah. That means just life in general feels better.
But that's one of those things, isn't it? Because kettlebell sports is a good example because you have to have that. You can't experience a massive high without knowing what low is.
Which is every training session.
They have to exist together, don't they? And fortunately, you can do it all in 10 minutes and then move on.
That's what I have moved to long cycle, which is good. I was doing biathlon before. It was 2 sets of 10 minutes, and that is psychologically tough because you put so much in the first thing for 10 minutes, and then you have to do the next. Whereas I'm doing long cycle, it's just 10 minutes, and that's all I have to think. It's just 10 minutes. That's all it is, just 10 minutes. And then it's done. And then it's done. It is a long time, but it's only 10 minutes. Like my workout actually on Monday was 7 minutes long. That was it. That was all I had. I had to do 7 minutes long cycle. I did a warm up, of course, and I did some stretching afterwards. But
you're not doing like a million jump squats and.
Oh, I'm doing jump squats at the moment. I had to do 100 squats with 40 kilos 2 weeks ago, which was good.
Yes, because he was speaking about that a few months ago as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
Dennis had
Just
been-
slowly kind of working way up, but it's good. I mean, you do it at the end of the session, and then I had to do 100 bench with only 35 kilos on the bench. It worked out that I had a client and she back squatted 65 kilos really confidently yesterday, and then she deadlifted the same weight. And I basically said to her, that's probably the heaviest. And I picked it up after she finished doing a deadlifts, and I was like, that's the heaviest weight I've lifted for the all year. I've not lifted anything heavier than 65 kilos. It's not been on the program. It's not been. I'm sure there's people screaming at the podcast at the moment saying that's not strength training, but I haven't really. It felt pretty easy. Of course it would.
This year, the heaviest weight I've lifted is, I think, 32 kilos. I think that's it.
Yeah, I was about to say, you mean you're just basically either pressing a 32 kilo weight, or you're maybe squatting with. You don't go up to 36 this year or anything.
Not so. Oh no, I pressed a 36 for like a couple of reps, just cause. That wasn't in my program though. That was a while. I did that once, each side. But other than that, I haven't picked up a heavier weight, apart from doing pull-ups, which obviously I'm heavier than.
Right.
But that's not picking it up, is it?
You don't really need. Well, there's this awful case today, isn't there? I don't know if you've seen it of this man who died doing the back squat.
Yes, that was that last week or the week before? I've heard about that.
I mean, the only reason I know about it is some person in Instagram bloody just posts it like I'm just like, what's this? And it's just.
I haven't seen the video.
I need to see that, man.
Who wants to see the video? No,
I didn't want to see it, so I didn't know what it was until I saw it.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to see that. But I mean, it's not say you shouldn't push yourself. And a lot of people are experienced enough to push very heavy, plenty of people are, and they're extremely strong people. But I mean, we just done a transformation on the A12 Express for a guy called Mark, and he got a phenomenal result. Never done any strength training in his life. On his day one on the lat pull down, he was only using 9 kilos. That was it. At the end of the program, he's using about 55.
Yeah.
And so he's never, and he couldn't do any pull-ups at the beginning 12 weeks ago. Now he can do 3 really good pull-ups, which for him is massive because he was nowhere near a pull-up in any stretch of the imagination 12 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He lost 15 kilos. His bench press was 10 rep max, 27 kilos, 27.5 kilos. And he did 55 today. So 57 kilos today.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's massive. He didn't bench anything more than 40 kilos over the entire program. So.
But this is the thing, the potential within people is massive, isn't it? Especially if you're unconditioned. The potential is way more than it would be if you've been, lifting weights most of your life. But then there's still, obviously, there's incremental, not incremental, there's changes over time, but you don't. This is the whole thing of training with Paul, isn't it? I don't know how Dennis program stuff, whether you go anywhere near maximal or not.
Nowhere near.
Expand your comfort zone, isn't it? So your maximum's gone up, but you don't need to ever go anywhere near it. You don't need to prove it because we
don't really do heavy weights. I mean, I asked him today, and he's obviously. What did I say? So basically, I just done a 7-minute set with 2 18s, and it went all right. I got some good numbers. And basically, I was talking to him about keeping pace. I said, I'm hoping to keep that 9 to 10 rep pace for as long as possible. I'd love to be able to do that pace with the 24s. You are welcome! ! It's quite a lot of work ahead of us in order to get to 24.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, okay, yeah. But, but for 18 kilograms, the results are very good and definitely would be comfortable to move on to 20. So just a bit of realism there.
But you put that into perspective for people because it's only 6 kilos more. But it's not, it's 12 kilos more because it's 2. But also it's 33, well, it's a third, 33% more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Massive.
It's a big old jump.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does. It's really the cumulative fatigue that's the most challenging thing. And actually I've sat down and talked to him recently and just said, if I need to take like 3 or 4 days off between a workout so they can do it, he's like, yeah, that's fine. Just do them in the order. If you can get 3 in a week, brilliant. But if you need an extra day's rest, take the extra day's rest, get it done. So I'm kind of on some weeks doing 3 one week, 2 the other, depending. And I'm making much more linear progress that way than when I was trying to always get 3 in. You know?
Yeah, it's funny that, because I do 3 sessions a week with Paul, but there's a couple of guys who are training online at the minute, but I'm thinking of one specifically, a guy, Lee, who listens actually. In fact, he became a client from this podcast, but anyway.
Yeah.
He could only, at the very beginning, he could only manage 3 sessions a week. He moved from that, but he's back on it again. But he's kind of doing a thing between pull-ups, presses, squats. He can now do pistol squats, which he wanted to be able to do. But his goal is to press the 40-kilo belt, right?
Yeah.
But he could do 3 sessions a week. And the way I had to cut it was to get him to do 2 sets of presses and 1 set of squats one week, and then the next week squats and 2 sets of squats, 1 set of presses. Do you know what I mean? Like, mix it up.
Yeah.
Because if I gave him everything to do in one session 3 times a week, his sessions were like too long, because he got like an hour. So I said, right, the results will probably come slower, but they will come. But there'll be less fatigue doing it this way. So one week it's two press focus sessions and some pull-ups and stuff like that and other stuff.
Yeah.
2 press focus sessions, then another week of the squat, and then 1 squat focus session. Then the next week it's 2 squats, 1 press. Week after, 2 presses, 1 squat, and then 2 squats, 1 press. Basically, that's it.
Yeah.
Instead of having all of it like I do,
all of it in one go,
one week, but I've got the time to do it.
I think you have. Well, I have what I call the 40+ factor, which is the less is more approach. I mean, I'm just experimenting with a client at the moment, and I've cut his reps back on everything massively. You know, he's doing like 3 sets of 5 on the squat, which is, you know, when it starts to get heavy, that's probably enough. But everything else, I'm trying to give him the least amount possible to get the thing. And particularly on the deadlift, I'm just giving him like sets of singles, like 3 sets of 1, and he's making great linear progress, because he's just a busy guy in his 40s who just needs a bit more time and TLC to recover, but he can do it, you know. And he's now just showing up to each workout, completing the reps, and it's just adding 5 kilos every week. It's just making progress. I don't think he knows that I'm doing that, but I've definitely cut back massively, probably a third on what he was doing before, you know.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, I'm at the business end of stuff at the minute, so I'm knackered. But I know that that's not forever. I know I'm coming to the end of a cycle at the minute, which is always the worst place. Because like tomorrow I've got to do 10 sets of 9 presses with 32 kilos, which is just horrible. And then next week I'm gonna have to do 10 sets of 10 on the Friday. Yeah. But you know, it just is what it is. And I know after that it might go up to the 34, but I don't expect it to go anywhere near 10 sets of 10 on that. It'll be 10 sets of 2. But I know that after that it all drops back down again, and I go back well into comfort and then come back stronger. Yeah. But it's when people don't see that and they're like, oh, it's got hard now and I've got to keep moving forwards. It's like, no, you don't. You can keep moving forwards without
well, you don't really think in 12-week cycles, do you? I mean, you don't think in cycles of 12 weeks, do you? Because I mean, I know from my experience working with Paul that every single workout will have its own micro progression cycle. So you may be peaking on presses, but you may be halfway through your squat, or you might be right at the beginning of a new squat, you know, cycle. And so there is always something peaking and something dipping. Sometimes you get everything dipping at the same time, but rarely. But there's always some kind of fluctuation in, say you're doing 3 exercises, they won't all be at peak on week 9 or 12. They'll be, you know, they might even go longer than 12 weeks, you know.
Well, the same guy, Lee, he did 10 sets of 10. No, he didn't quite do. He was meant to do 10 sets of 10 squats with double 28s, front squats. And I think he missed the last couple of reps on the last.
10 sets of 10 with 28s. That's a tough workout, that.
It is. But we knew it was going to be, but I was like, right, we're going for it. And he just missed the last couple of reps on the last set, I think.
Yeah.
And then he was back down to like his next session with front squats was 216s. You know, because he's going to be like, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Because it's just that stress builds up. But then when you go back down and you get back to, I don't know, 224s or whatever, it's going to feel like nothing. So
super compensate almost, you know.
You know, and it's getting people to realize that. And, you know, a lot of my guys realize it now because they've been doing it for a decent amount of time. It's like, you know, the turn up. Sometimes we'll have stuff planned as well. They turn up in the morning. I'm like, how are you feeling? Oh, I'm knackered today. And I'm like, right, let's do something different then.
Yeah.
Usually during the summer, we just end up, let's just have fun. Let's just throw some things around and see what happens. Because half of them can't commit to.
Oh, yeah. That's a challenge at the moment. Everyone's away.
On holiday or the kids are off school or whatever. So, yeah.
Do you do any kettlebell juggling? Because you got like throwing things around. You could.
Nah, we used to.
It lands on the floor, doesn't it?
Well, not here, but yeah, we used to do stuff like that for a laugh. But you know,
well, I got a trainer who was covering some sessions for us. Great guy. He was doing. They were doing a little bit of a warm up, and it's an exercise I use myself mainly because of what happened next. So, you know, when you're passing a kettlebell around you in a kind of 360, holding it, you're swinging it and you're taking it in front of you, and then you pass from the left hand to the right hand, it goes behind your back, and then you pass it back into the other hand, and it just goes in a circular fashion around you. And you kind of get into a little rhythm. Very important that you're focusing, because obviously you've got to pass it from your hands and not drop it. Or he dropped it on his phone. He just bought a new iPhone 14 and one of the Max ones, the big ones. And it was only an 8 kilo bell, and it just and the hope that it was somehow fixable, you know, it wasn't. And then unfortunately, because he couldn't put money on his car, he got a ticket as well from bloody. I didn't pay him that much money. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know what that was, like 1,800 quid of mistake that day.
Yeah, that's not so good, is it? Yeah,
certain moves that high risk.
That reminds me of when Sean, my girlfriend's dad, spilled a thimble full of wine out of his glass on the table. But you know what happens when you spill a receptacle of liquid? There's 10 times more in there when it spills than there is when you're drinking it.
Yeah,
and it just brushed against my laptop. It cost me 1,800 quid. That did.
Wow. That was an expensive glass of wine.
It was, yeah. An expensive thimbleful, but there you go.
Yeah. No, I gave one to I gave my mum an old Mac that I got from work, and I'd got an upgrade, and so I gave her my old one. She had it for a week before she spilled a glass of wine on it. So
yeah. Oh, at least it was an old one, so that's all right.
Yeah. Anyway. So I think we pretty much covered probably most bases that are out there. And,
absolutely. There we go.
And the Health Oddity audience is now full to the brim with actions and inspiration.
Absolutely. And they're all good. Like, don't worry, I'll keep you posted on how my gut's going.
Yeah. We're going to set up a special WhatsApp group for people who want to who want daily updates on timings and everything else.
But in all seriousness on that, Caitlin, who I'm working with, we might get her on the podcast to talk about this stuff, because it's really interesting.
Depends how it goes, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I don't know so far. I know what's wrong, which I didn't know in the past. So, yeah. So it's nothing actually wrong. It's just things could be better. So let's see how it goes.
So you're not on Tum Tums and Rene?
No, one of my guys did tell us, he goes, you just need to drink Yakult and you'll be all right. I'm like, it's not really good.
I mean, do those things do anything?
I've no idea.
Apart from just pump a load of calories in you.
I don't know. But this is one of the things, because we talk about this as well. Like, your mate down the pub tells you, like, here's what you should do. Here's what you should do. Here's what you should do. You know, you just take this and then it's all right. Or you go to someone like Caitlin, like I did, who knows what they're talking about, and ask them.
Well, that's it. Isn't it better to put it as a suppository anyway?
What?
Like bacteria.
I'm not sure with that. Have you seen the size of that?
Or a Yakult.
That would, yeah, Yakult would fit in there, I think, but that's not.
This is why we have James host
It
these
is.
things.
He's the creator, isn't he?
It just descends. Anyway, so yeah, well, thanks guys for listening to Health Oddity. Peter, would you like to end with any last words? Final words?
Nah.
No. We've been talking for about an hour. So please do share the podcast. We would like some more reviews, actually. I mean, I don't know how many reviews we've got, but I'm sure we could do with some more on the Instagram. No, what's it called? Spotify or iTunes. I think iTunes, you can actually write about what you think of it, whereas in Spotify, you can just give it a rating. But it does help us grow. And we do have listeners, people listening to us, sharing it. We come across people who listen to the episodes, and the algorithm just needs to recognize that by having some reviews. So please do share it and like us, subscribe. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. And I don't know who we've got, and I don't know when James is back, but I'm sure it'll all come together in the end.
James is back next week.
James is back next week. There we go. You're saved. Everyone's saved. Okay, take care, guys.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.